What's up, you guys? It's Twinless Twin, and we are back for episode 3 of Noob to Master. Now, before we get into this, I have to ask you to hit that like button right now. I know you've been watching the previous videos, but we're looking to get more likes. If this video gets 50 likes, I am going to do a live stream where I don't stop the stream until I 5-0 a league with Grixis Reanimator. That's right, I won't stop until I 5-0 with Grixis Reanimator if it gets 50 likes. So make sure you guys check that out. I'll do it at the end of the Noob to Master series, so very likely that will be at the start of September, but I will update you on that soon if we hit the like goal on this video, and let's make it for the previous videos too. Go back, give all of those videos a like. If all of them are over 50 likes, I'll go for that 5-0-50 score in a league, 5-0. All right, so what changes did we make? A little bit of a change to the sideboard. I want to try out Strategic Betrayal, and this is something that I actually got from an opponent in the leagues. They played it against me, and it was absolutely devastating. It exiled my Psychic Frog, but not only that, it exiled my graveyard when I wanted to discard an Archon and set up a Persist. So this card seems great for the Mirror, which is a popular matchup these days, but also good against other Psychic Frog decks. Good against Zoo, where they don't have very many threats, but they have some very scary threats. So I think that alone just gives it enough flexibility to be worth the addition to the sideboard. So let's go ahead without further ado and get into our first match. We'll go ahead and size this up and maybe make our hand a little bigger so everyone can see that. And this hand looks very strong. I mean, we have Thoughtseize into Psychic Frog. We have an Archon to get into the graveyard, so we're halfway there. We just need the Persist. I'm going to keep. And we get Thoughtseized. Okay, so a battle of Thoughtseizes. It'll be interesting to see what they take here. That'll probably tell us a lot about their hand. When someone Thoughtseizes you, they get to see your hand, but you also get to see their hand in a sense, because they tell you a lot about what they have going on. For example, the fact that they took our Thoughtseize means they probably have a removal spell for Psychic Frog. So I'm less inclined to just jam the Psychic Frog on turn 2 unless I have to. Okay, let's just Faithless Looting here. See if we can maybe even hit the nuts and set up a potential Archon of Cruelty next turn. No luck yet, but we get the Archon in the bin. Now, we do have to be careful. I mean, they're black. They could be playing Emperor Bones. We don't know what they're playing yet. Okay, they're playing Esper of some sort. All right, so remember, going back to what I said, they did not take Psychic Frog. They probably have Fatal Push here. So if that's what they have, my play is going to just be Thoughtseizing them here, taking a look at their hand, and maybe helping take away the Fatal Push to clear the way for this Psychic Frog. But we'll learn shortly what's going on. Dun dun dun. I guess their username is very appropriate. Slow underscore Burz, BRZ. Maybe soon they'll let us see their hand. They're not ready to let go of that Fatal Push yet. They were really hoping to keep it to kill our Psychic Frog. Okay, so it wasn't Fatal Push. They had Strategic Betrayal, Ketramos, Cling to Dust, Counterspell. Okay, so what can we learn from this? Well, they're going to cycle this Cling to Dust, end step. And then they, if they hit a land, they get to play Ketramos, which is kind of scary. The counterspell is also annoying. The betrayals are very, you know, we can play around those to an extent by just not playing out the frog right away. I mean, the Cling to Dust is also kind of tempting. It lets us keep looting around, which is good value. I'm definitely not taking one of the betrayals. I don't see any value in that. Now, what I'm trying to figure out, and the best plan to beat Betrayal is just Oculus. If you can get an Oculus in play and it manifests, now all of a sudden these are pretty weak. So it's one of these three cards. Funny they can't cast any of these. Now the Betrayals are scary with Ketramos. I kind of think I'm supposed to take Ketramos. Though the risk to that is they could just draw Unearth. Alright, I'm going to take a risky line here and grab the Cling to Dust. If they draw a blue land here, it could be a problem. Yeah, they drew a tapped one at least, so we get an extra turn. I might seriously regret this. I mean, the Ketramos could be a real problem for us. I probably should have just taken it. I was thinking, like, why even bother taking it? They could just draw Unearth, but, I mean, still. Alright, so they just use this to exile our graveyard, which is fine by me. That's not a great use of it, but it did actually pay off because we found Persist. Let's get Undercity Sewers. Oh, okay, Oculus, I see you. I'll put you back into play. And look at that, now we're gonna start manifesting, and they're not gonna be able to use Strategic Betrayal very effectively against us anymore. Now, they can play Ketramos, and then they can turn it into a attacker, but Oculus might just outpace Ketramos, because if they start to attack, we're going to be attacking back for, you know, 8, 10, 12 damage. That isn't something they can necessarily compete with. And then next turn, we're going to be able to safely play a Psychic Frog as well, now that we have this manifest fodder. All right, and they scoop. Wow. That is surprising. I feel like they could have maybe played Ketramos and then, like, Betrayaled and tried to find a removal spell for the Oculus, but they just felt it was too much. Alright, so in this matchup, I think I like a couple cards here. I like these 6 cards for sure. I think Unmarked Grave is one of those things, like, this is an interactive matchup where Unmarked Grave is not very reliable for us. One thing that I still haven't figured out is, do you ever cut Archon? So I'm paying very close attention in these games to, is Archon, you know, costing us? It feels kind of free to always keep it in, but maybe it's a card you're able to shave. These are all important. Fatal Push is necessary for Frog. Same with Spell Snare, it's important. Maybe Emperor of Bones is a card we could shave one of, and then maybe we do shave like one Archon. How badly do we need Nihil Spellbomb? I think it's good. I think it's just good. So we need to cut 2 more. Yeah, this is tricky. Now that I added these Strategic Betrayals, the mapping doesn't work as easily, but Strategic Betrayal seems great here. I mean, it exiles their Ketramos, which we traditionally don't have a lot of great answers to in Grixis colors, really just the Edicts, and then exiling their Yarn as well is a nice little bonus. Maybe we shave a Persist? We probably need to pick, is Emperor Bones better or worse? Yeah, Emperor Bones is probably better. And then we can just like shave a... no, don't shave Thought Scour, that doesn't make any sense. Maybe we shave a Fatal Push because the matchup often comes down to in between Thoughtseize, we have a lot of answers for the Frog anyways. We have the snares. I don't know, I was pretty happy with Fatal Push. We need to think about our mapping for this matchup. Now that we added in those strategic betrayals. Alright, I like this hand. One thing I've figured out about looting is it is really better to delay it as well as you can when you don't already have a creature to ditch, because every draw step is just giving you better chances to actually get something valuable in the graveyard. If you don't get something valuable in the graveyard with looting, it's a pretty bad effect. You're just drawing 2 and discarding 2. Not every red deck plays Faithless Looting for that reason, but once you can add something valuable to the graveyard, it becomes very, very good. So here, for example, I could play turn 1 Faithless Looting, but I also could just fetch a Surveil land, and that gives me a little bit of setup, a little bit of fixing, and it gives me potentially, you know, an extra 2 cards, one from the Surveil and one from my next draw step before I cast the Looting. And that could make all the difference. It's essentially doubling the cards I get to see. So let's go ahead and get Ruckus Theater. Just bin the Polluted Delta for now. Okay. Interesting, because they did bin Fatal Push already, which makes me think, yes, they have a removal spell. Also, they could have a counter spell. I mean, eating a counter spell doesn't feel bad here. It's really the removal spell that I'm most afraid of. I guess if they had the removal spell, we do have Unearth to bring it back too, so we should probably just play Frog here. Even though we're clearly playing into their mana, it's not clear to me that we would be playing around them by waiting. And if they have Strategic Betrayal, we'd actually be happy with them using it now when our graveyard is pretty much nothing. Okay. I think now is a good time to loot. Alright. Psychic Frog, I mean, we'll take that. Might be turning that face up. Okay, Fatal Push. That's good. Scour. we are flooding. Alright, let's start by attacking here. And turning this face up. Bitter Triumph, okay. We could exile their graveyard here, but I don't think they have an Unearth, or I think they would have played it last turn, so I'm just going to assume... Oh, I guess they could just have another Oculus. I should have maybe exiled their graveyard. This is not going to go well. If we can find a Fatal Push or something, we might be okay, though. Emperor of Bones. Okay. That potentially is very good. If they don't have Fatal Push, we can get them here. If they do a Fatal Push, we lose. Why do they let us exile? I really think this isn't correct, but it definitely, I guess it depends on their hand. I mean, if we had just waited... Can you adapt? I believe you can adapt to, like, pay for adapt twice as long as the counters aren't on. So, in the future, we can do something like that. Well, they definitely got us good here. Maybe we should have just exiled their yard. It felt bad just paying 2 mana to exile the yard, but you gotta do what you gotta do, right? Yeah, Emperor of Bones, once you target the card, even if they kill the Emperor of Bones with the trigger on the stack, the card's still getting exiled, so they should kill it in response to us targeting Archon, not once the Archon is under the Emperor, because then you could potentially adapt again, right? So that's... Or just, like, wait on the adapt. We've actually run into this situation a couple times now where opponents have made that mistake. And so take advantage of that, you know? People might missequence, and I think my assumption has been if they had Fatal Push, they would have used it. But that's not the case. People are I think, I mean, in my opinion, messing up. And you can punish them for that by just waiting to adapt until you can do it twice, and I believe that works. If that doesn't work, then I'm really a noob. Alright, well, we don't need Spell Snare at this point. Can we find the nuts? I think we basically need to just looting again into, like, Oculus. Okay, maybe we can get into an Oculus war? So we can actually kill their Oculus. And then hope if these two cards are bad. Oh my god, I mistapped. Oh, what a punt. Fudge. I needed to tap the island to cast the spell bomb, so I had double black. Oops. This is a good trick, though. If you have spell bomb and fatal push, you sack it to enable revolt, and then before the ability resolves, then you fatal push. Hopefully they just like have counter spell here, so we don't have to feel bad about that punt. Oh, thank God. Okay. So they did have a lot of graveyard hate. I really think we should have this fatal push in. Maybe we like shave in an Iron Earth because of all the graveyard hate. I'll be right back. Alright, we're back. We're on the play. I think this hand has to be a keep, and we count on the Faithless Looting to get us the second land. We'll probably go for Thoughtseize first. Actually, no. I think we should go for a looting right away. Maybe we could surveil. I don't hate surveilling, actually. Again, I really like to hold the looting until we have like an Oculus or Archon in hand. let's just start with a surveil land. See if we can get lucky and find the... land ourselves naturally. I guess Raucous Theater would be the right one to find. Okay. No thank you. I need a land. Alright, now we have to looting. Alright, well we don't find a land. That's not great. If they play Frog here, we're gonna be under the gun. Thoughtseize. Okay. That's fine. Our hand is pretty redundant. Alright. They force us to crack the spell bomb, but that's fine. That's not fine. We have not much we can do about that right now. It's gonna start eating us alive. One lander is not working out here. I mean, the thing is, this card doesn't do a ton except for just like, you know, make sure we can't reanimate stuff. But I was gonna say, if we hit a land, maybe we're still in this game. And we know they're gonna have some counters, most likely. The fact that we have 3 removal spells in hand is definitely a problem for us, because they clearly don't have many creatures sitting in their hand. Okay, Ketramos. Now the Kaya becomes a real problem. We do have Strategic Betrayal, so hopefully that can deal with this. If they have Spell Snare here, I think we lose. Okay, they don't have Spell Snare, so we got rid of the Ketramos problem. They keep exiling our stuff. They play a Psychic Frog. That's fine, we have the answer. I thought about maybe we don't want to dispute this, but I do think dispute could lose its value. I mean, if they hit one more land drop, it kind of becomes a dead card. Not dead, but it's harder to convert. Fatal Push is something that we can hold up and convert in most circumstances. Alright, we don't need a Spell Snare, I don't think. No, their turn to Mystical Dispute us. Alright, so we are close to getting ultimated by this Kaya, which is kind of crazy. I did not have that on my bucket list of ways to lose a Magic game. Kaya Orzhov Usurper Ultimate. But, yeah, here we are. You can see they prioritized answering that. I mean, that dispute would have answered Oculus anyways. I'm not sure why they did that to counter the Thought Scour. What they were afraid of there. That they couldn't have just waited instead. Fatal Push, okay. Thoughtseize. Okay, okay. Alright, if we draw Looting and then Persist. How about that? Nope, no luck. Okay, well, we die. That was a tough game. I mean, I think we learned something with the Emperor of Bones piece. I think figuring out the sideboard plan for those matchups is also going to be really important. Testing out fair plans, testing out unfair plans where you keep all the Archons and Persists in. I'm not sure because they have so much interaction. It kind of feels like a difficult fight to win. And maybe we just are better served going fair post-board in those games. Alright, well this hand needs a way to discard the Archon, but it has the Persist and the Archon, so I think we can keep off the back of these Surveil lands. I probably should have just started on Undercity Sewer, because these could be untapped lands later, but... Aha. They play counters in this deck? I have never... Oh, this is not the Affinity deck I thought it was. I did not think this deck played counters. Okay. Well, we're learning as a noob to master series. There you go. If I had known about counters, how would I have played this differently? It's kind of hard because we also didn't want them to activate. I guess running out Oculus would have been the right move. That probably gets them to use the counter. Then they... Well, no, we know the Saga's going to Chapter 3. We actually... I take it back. We had to make the play we did. Because Saga was going to Chapter 3, we had to make the play we did. Alright, let's see if we can get away with this. Alright, they're letting us put Oculus on the stack. That's nice. They were so afraid of us reanimating Archon that they let us put Oculus on the stack. Or maybe they just value the extra artifact in play too. It's an ugly Mox Opal. I have never seen a Mox Opal that ugly. Alright, I mean, they're loading up on cards. They're getting a lot of cards, that's for sure. Play out 2 frogs here. Uh-oh. Things might be about to get a little crazy. Okay, yeah, we're dead. We're not beating that. Nice, good thing we get all these to come in. I don't think Spell Snare really does hardly anything against them. They do have all that main deck graveyard hate with Saga, but I think we can go faster than it. At least on the play. On the draw, maybe we think about how good Unmarked Grave is. The Unearth seems less... Well, I guess Unearth is still pretty good. Fatal Push is probably a little bit less valuable. We're really just going for, like, Sweeper as our removal of choice. Thoughtseize seems good because you can take away the Pinnacle Emissary from their hand or something like that. Alright. No turn one play, but this hand is very good. Alright, Pyroclasm seems reasonable to keep. Do we want to rush our combo, or do we want to just play it slow? I think because we can't really combo next turn anyways, we might as well just play out the frog. Work towards that turn 4 combo. Alright, there's the Pinnacle Emissary. Double Pinnacle Emissary. Alright, they're going kind of crazy with these drones. Oh, Kappa Cannoneer. Are they thinking about if they want to hold something to, yeah, maybe they're thinking that. So let's discard the Emperor Bones, and my thought is let's Pyroclasm and Unearth. We need to find a land that's untapped in the top 2. Okay, we found the Delta, so now we're good to go with Archon next turn. Assuming they don't have a counter or anything. Which can't be safely assumed, but hopefully it's the case. What do they have? Alright, they scoop. So we get the win there. Alright, forcing game number 3. I don't hate our position. Maybe the Mystical Dispute is actually not bad. Because it hits Kappa, it hits the draw 2s. And potentially it can help us fight a counter war as well. Yeah, I think I like the thought of that. So the redundant unmarked grave is not ideal, but we do have a pretty decent hand here otherwise. Second Oculus is not the card we want to draw, though. Hand's already kind of clunky. Even though I am pretty sure they have a Metallic Rebuke. No, they don't. Interesting. I thought they did. I mean, they played out the Mem Knight, but I guess that was just a good bluff on their part to do that. Like bluffing extra mana, but maybe they just had nothing. It does kind of feel to me like maybe our plan A isn't, or plan B isn't that great against them. Their plan A is just so much better. I guess if we had like Meltdown plus the plan A, it would be pretty good though, so I'm in the middle, I'm in between. I wonder if this can bait out a counterspell if they have it. Nope. I guess Faithless Looting is the best card to Entomb here. That's kind of bad, but... Let's hold up something, like bluff Fatal Push, or maybe Consign. We know that their Saga Chapter 3 is coming here and is going to be able to grab a Tormod's Crypt or something like that. I guess we can play around Metallic Rebuke here if we want to, if they are holding it up. Or they might just go for this. Oh, uh-oh. I hope we're not dead. 13, 14, 15, 16. Yikes. Okay, please don't have another land. Wait, why did they tap the Mem Knight there instead of the Ornithopter they just played? So we're taking 13 down to very low life total 4. We don't need another Archon, we'll bend that. Thoughtseize. Going to 1. I mean, we could. I don't hate Shock, go to 1, Meltdown plus Oculus, actually. I think that's probably the better play. Leave the Lava Spur Boots in play is the only problem with that. Oh my god, they actually had Force of Negation. Should I have played around that with Thoughtseize? Alright, so we go to 1. And we're going to be double chump blocking here. This is just brutal. Nope, they have us dead. Man, alright. Noob to master. Still much to learn. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, remember, please like and subscribe. And I will see you in Noob to Master episode 4. Let's see if we can get a better record than 0-2 in the next video. Peace.